Hello, everyone, and welcome to Local Chat, episode 105 here on a Friday evening or Thursday night that I'm going to pretend it was actually on in the publishing of this episode.
Wow.
God, I fucked that up. Anyways, folks, we're joined together. That wasn't a swear within the first 30 seconds, YouTube.
To say.
That's why we have
It's
the
okay.
intro.
We're not monetized on the stream channel. Joining me, Ian Gibson.
Hi.
He's here. Kyle Bailey. I almost called you Kyle Gibson. You two
yet.
got married over the weekend.
Hopefully.
I'm very excited.
I don't think there's a Kyle in my family. That's kind of weird.
Is there not?
I don't think there's an Ian in mine. So
You know,
That
there's
kinda makes sense,
neither
though.
in my family.
Is there a Will in your family, though?
Well, there is a way. So
WHEY.
good. It's good.
WHEY. Yes, he's super bulked up all the time, like a brick. Folks, we're here to talk about video games. We're here to talk about all sorts of deliciously lovely things. But what we're not here to talk about is how the government has got us no. I had to open my notes. There's some little chit chat things here in the chit chat section. I'm gonna go over mine first, mostly because I'm sick, and it's annoying, and I hate it, and I had a terrible week, and the pressure in my brain wants my eye to explode. So that's fun. I did a telehealth visit.
Those are fun.
They were fun. The connection with the doctor on my phone was a little iffy, but he was super pro-y. He was like, "Oh, Mr.
Bro-y?
Crosby, like, oh." And he was like, "Well, I can't give you antibiotics right now because you're a healthy young man. And it's not great for you." So he's like, "I'm going to hit you with this and all this stuff." And
My trust level just went down.
yeah,
doing that.
I was like, okay. Well, the annoying thing was I hate health insurance because I have like the health insurance app, and then the telehealth is within that app, but it's a separate company. So to then go use that doctor again, I have to go to the separate company's website. Otherwise, I have to like search for him again in the thing, which was kind of annoying. I don't like have an actual doctor in Jersey. Like I haven't had to go to one in a while, so it's like I was just trying to do it quick. Long story short, I have these sick nasal sprays now for my sinus infection, which is like, it feels like it just started or whatever, but it was super fun. Ian, how's the COVID update?
Well, last time we talked, Maggie had tested positive for COVID, and I had not. The next morning, I tested positive, so we had some COVID over the weekend. We weathered it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie had it worse than I did, but we had a rough couple days, and I think I'm mostly back to normal now. I think I had the flu like 4 years ago, and the way it manifested for me, well, COVID's a form of influenza, you piece of shit.
It's just like I think
what
I
I'm
had
saying
a flu.
is, what I'm saying is when I had it, what I think was the flu 4 years ago, it was like 2 or 3 days of like, you feel pretty terrible. It was actually when we did the Sonic stream. That's when I had the flu.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's in the middle of the Sonic stream where I wasn't on camera because I was like shirtless and I was like really congested.
What?
And we were playing Sonic games, and then halfway through the stream, Maggie rubbed Vicks Vapor Rub on my chest, and that was a bit in the stream. It was a great stream.
Oh, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. And I remember I had to be on the laptop because I was in the middle of moving as well. But anyways, yeah, so it was just like congestion and a bad headache, and you feel woozy, and then that goes away after like 2 days and like a slight fever. But then the woozy just persists for like 4 or 5 days. And that's what it's felt like. I'm still a little woozy, but it's like coming down. I don't have a fever. I think the headache's mostly gone and my appetite's back. So thankfully, I think I'm on the other side. I was really wary because they say with COVID, it comes and goes in your period. So you can have like a great day and then it's back. But I've had several great days in a row. So I think I'm okay. I think Maggie's back to normal now. We're just waiting for the negative so we can rejoin society. Now, Will, I know you've had COVID. I don't want to fucking hear about it anymore. Kyle, have you had COVID yet?
I have, so far as I know, I have not.
Okay.
I've been either remarkably resistant to it, or I had it and just didn't have any symptoms. So every test I've taken has been negative, and I took a lot of tests because when I went to Japan, they were still in lockdown mode when
Mm.
we were sort of like a couple months out of it, and it was like, I mean, we literally got tested every single day, and I never ever had it. So
That's good.
yeah,
That's good. Yeah, so I'm glad I finally had it because for a while there it was like, oh, maybe I've already had it. I never tested positive, but maybe I'm asymptomatic, etc. But now that I've had it, I'm like, okay, I know what it is. I know what it feels like. Honestly, the worst part of COVID is knowing that it's COVID. To the extent that this is a joke, nobody follow this advice, but to the extent that I wish I had not tested myself for COVID and then known it was COVID, because overall it was just like, I'm sick, this sucks. But then you add the thing of, this is COVID, I could die from this. So like in
yeah,
the worst
that's
of it,
true.
in the worst of it, I'm in there and I'm just like, I've got a fever. It's like 2 a.m. I've got like chills going on, and I'm like, I'm like, I don't want to say struggling to breathe, but I can tell that my breathing is diminished. And I'm like, what if I wake up in the morning and it's worse? What if I got to call the hospital? What if what if I die from this? Whereas if it wasn't COVID, I would have just been like, I'll make it through this. Let's see how I feel tomorrow. So it's like, literally the worst part was that it was COVID, which puts the possibility of death.
it's just like the way you rationalize it, like knowing or
Yeah.
not knowing. So yeah,
I
I
like
get that.
Exactly.
I keep doing that with so I think, not to go into it more, but I think I developed Cincinnatitis or whatever it's called, where I had a sinus
Tinnitus?
infection,
Okay.
and then it mostly went away, but occasionally I would like feel it again, and so I think it was just around and it never fully went away, and now it came back. But it was pressure right above my eye and behind my eye, and I was like, "Do I have a brain tumor?" Like,
Yeah.
it's like, is there? And then I Googled it. I was like, sinus pressure behind only one eye, and everyone's like, most Cincinnatitis symptoms are behind one eye, and I'm like, that's
Yeah.
wild. Like, thank
Yeah.
you, internet,
Or it's just
for
one
comforting me.
tumor.
Or it's just
Yeah.
one tumor.
Yeah.
Yeah, pushing my eye out. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So
I
anyways,
could rock an eye patch.
yeah. So anyways, I mean, that's been my COVID week. It sucks because I only took one day off work, and most of it was over the weekend. So so I really only got one day off work. And then as you get better, like the last couple of days, I was like, I'm better. I should go grocery shopping. And then I was like, nope, that's not safe. It's like I am better now, but I have not tested negative yet. So I'm kind of. And then the other thing is, Maggie's dad is staying with us for a while, and he has been negative completely. So we are masking in the house. I can't
for
use
him.
the main TV. I'm basically just stuck in the bedroom, which isn't terrible, but it's also like, I'd love to play the PS5, but I don't want to move it into the bedroom right now. And it's just like, it's a pain. But I'm through it. I'm through it.
Did you consume any good media while you were sick over the weekend?
I'm almost done with season 5 of Better Call Saul. I say season
Nice.
5 because that's what's on Netflix. They don't have season 6 yet. I've been watching some movies off my Sight and Sound list. I watched. Will, you ever watch Night of the Hunter?
Oh, it's great. It's the first like kind of not horror movie, but
It gets pretty creepy. It's from 1955. That was
noir.
fun.
That's what it is. Yeah. Noir.
I also watched Daisies, which was a really cool Czech movie from the 60s. So yeah, I was watching a lot of stuff. I didn't really play too many games. We'll get to that in a bit, but it was just kind of just sitting there and just watching stupid stuff and then just being on the phone. So it was actually kind of relaxing, except for the whole being sick part. But
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So I've guessed incorrectly who wrote the top thing. Kyle, have you consumed any good media over the weekend?
Yeah, I did. I actually have a running list of every new movie that I've watched this year, and I started doing that last year, but I did it like halfway through. This time, I'm really trying to get up to like 200, 250 new movies that I've never seen before. So, over the weekend, I watched Sideways with Paul Giamatti, which is great, fantastic movie. I watched Almost Famous, amazing, loved it, fantastic. And I went to the theater to see Avatar 2 with my brother and his wife, and the IMAX theater was broken. So we saw Plane instead with Gerard Butler of gamer fame, and
Yeah.
it was pretty terrible, pretty awful.
Pretty awful.
I can't like enjoy it like it's a dad movie. The first act is good, and then goes way down, and it's to the point where it's like your suspension of disbelief is so low that it's not enjoyable to watch. So,
Dang.
but
I watched Karen and I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once last night,
good shit.
which I had not seen yet. Um Great movie. Great movie. I have never wept that much during a movie in a very long time. Um and yeah,
It's
I'm a
good
big
stuff.
crier in movies.
Same. I'm an easy cry.
I wish I wasn't, but I've embraced it and I've just let it happen. I'm not blubbering or anything. It's just like it'll just come out.
Tears, silent tears, manly
Silent
tears.
tears.
But
Yeah, there's some heaving that has to happen, but no, I'm kidding. Anyways, nobody's talking about the Last of Us show. Who wrote that?
Oh, I put it on there. That's related. We should
Awesome.
talk about it.
Okay, I was just trying to bring it up naturally, and neither of you mentioned it.
well, because I
when
didn't
said
watch it
what
over the
me-
I didn't watch it over the weekend.
Okay, well, no one watched it, so we won't talk about it then. I'm the only
Only-
one who's watched it.
I did
guess.
watch it. I did watch it.
Oh, you did watch it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't watch it over the weekend.
I didn't
Sorry,
watch it over the
misheard you.
weekend. Yeah.
No, I misheard you. Sorry, I shouldn't have been so specific with my questions. Ian, did you watch it?
No, so I'm thank you for the segue, because I've been on the fence, because my question to myself was, I have not played Last of Us. Fuck, I can't fucking believe they renamed it Last of Us Part 1. I have not played the first Last of Us. This is real like fucking Star Wars and New Hope situation here. I have not played Last of Us, and I was like, well, I played the first hour and I didn't like it a couple years ago. So I was like, all right, I watch the show, or do I play the game? And then I was like, you know what, this year I should give the game a shot. And then I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna play the game, should I watch the show first or should I play the game first? And I thought I was settled on I'm gonna play the game first and then eventually watch the show. But honestly, there's two things in my head. Number one is, just like we did with Halo, at the end of this season of Last of Us, we should do a video on it where we all sit down and we say, what did we think about it? It's a video game adaptation. And number two, pretty much every single take I've seen is from the perspective of, I played the video game, now I watch the show. And I realize the best thing that I can bring forth to our future discussion is not playing the game at all and being the person who watches just the show. Because I think everybody else is going to come from the opposite angle of game then show, and I'm just going to be the show. I'm not going to have the context of, oh, that scene, I remember that from the game, etc. I mean, I think the basic plot of Last of Us I've already been spoiled on, but there's still so many little details that I don't know about, and so I think that's going to be more interesting rather than just another person who's played the game and then watched the show. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so my dad is the same as you, Ian. He's never played the game. I've told him about it, and when they first announced that they were making it, I was like, "Oh yeah, it's based on a video game. It's kind of like a zombie thing, but it's a little bit different." And he was like, "Okay, well, let me know when it's ready to watch." I told him when it came out. He watched it, and he thought it was good, but I think there's definitely there's a big differentiation between people who know what's coming and people who are just being introduced to the world. And it hasn't, the first episode, not to get into spoilers or anything, but it intros the exact same way as the game, like literally almost shot for shot. In some aspects, obviously there's tweaks and stuff, but my dad didn't comment on that sort of stuff where it was like, oh, it looks like a video game, or like, oh, it he doesn't have that context. So he was just like, yeah, it was cool. It was fine. And he was a big like Walking Dead fan back when that show was actually popular. And he's kind of been in the zombie world for a while. So like, I think he's kind of tired, and he's maybe asking himself like, what actually sets The Last of Us apart from any other zombie show. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's what I'm curious about as well, because a lot of the acclaim I'm seeing are people being like, it's very good. It's just as hard hitting and as emotional as the game was at the start. And I'm like, okay, well, without that context, does it actually work? It's one of those things where Dune, as much as people love the recent adaptation of Dune, it is the best adaptation of Dune. It just barely beat David Lynch's, but I still don't think it's that great of a movie, because that story does not translate well to a movie. It just doesn't. And so it's one of those things where it's like, depending on how you're coming to it, is really going to color how you perceive it. So for our upcoming future discussion of how was Last of Us season one, I want to come at it from that different angle of I have no context. It's just a TV show. Let me watch it as such and judge it as such.
My
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go Will, go.
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, the Last of Us game is a movie TV show. Like
Yeah.
Neil Druckmann, but
Yeah.
I know you say that about Naughty Dog games, but Neil Druckmann purposefully did that. Like he wanted this to be a TV show movie.
Yeah.
It's has that sort of pull to it. So that's why it knowing backstory on HBO was given a list of Sony properties. What do you want to do with? Do you want to make anything out of these? Last of Us was not on the list. The guy who did Chernobyl, I believe this is the story.
Craig
The guy
Mazin.
who did
Yeah.
Chernobyl, yeah, Craig Mazin, that is his name.
Yeah.
Liked Last of Us, contacted Naughty Dog or replied and said, "What about Last of Us?" And then that's how it got started. Like it wasn't even on the list of what Sony was trying to get produced. He was just like, "Hey, I like the story of The Last of Us. Let's put it together. Let's make it a show."
Yeah.
First episode, I think, is fantastic. It is so much of the show so far is the game retold. Whether you want that to be that way or not, there are some differences. I personally, I think you should just watch the show, Ian. I don't think you need to play the game
Mhm.
first. I think if you like the show, then go check out the game. The game has things that happen in it that do not happen in the show. They skip over a bunch of stuff in the first episode, mostly
Yes.
gameplay stuff that isn't needed in the show because you don't need to play the game in the show. All that sort of stuff. Clarification: I have seen several episodes of this show because I am reviewing it, not reviewing it for work, but working on it for work. There are deviations from heavy deviations from the game that are coming up. They are not. I don't think they're bad deviations. I think they are good deviations. There are things about characters that you never learn in the show or may have gleaned in the game. And I think they do a wonderful job with that. So I would say just the way Kyle and I are going, hey, that's the guy from the show. Oh, that's interesting. Hey, that's the part they skipped from the show. I would like you to watch the show, and then if you play the game, be like, hey, that's the character from the show that they didn't fully explain, but now I know a little bit more about him. That's cool. Or hey, I get to play this whole sequence and find out how this character died. So I think you should just go ahead and watch the show. I think it's great. I like Pedro Pascal. Like he's a fantastic actor. And the Fringe Lady is great as well. And then you won't be confused when the zombies don't work the same way they work in the games, like I was. And
So that's actually one of the sticking points is how they've already made changes to how the zombies work, and I don't like them. Like
yeah,
there's like one big one that it's like I'm trying not to spoil stuff, but it's like I get it. Like I get why they did it, but at the same time that kind of takes away from some of the uniqueness of like the purpose of the zombies and how they spread and everything, and it just sort of lessens their appeal to someone who's like, what are they doing in this new space with this new type of zombie? Like it just detracts from it in my opinion, but I kind of get why they did it. Also, to your point, Will, I think Ian's in a really interesting position because you're going to be able to take the characters on the merits of the story that's told in the TV show and not on the game. So you don't have obviously that bias or the preconceptions about stuff. But I do know what Will's talking about with specifically episode 3, what they do with some of the characters that are not even in the game, like they're referenced.
Mhm.
So it'll definitely be interesting. I think the episode 1 of The Last of Us is sort of like um it's kind of like exactly what happened with The Force Awakens, where The Force Awakens was sort of a reset into like, hey, remember, like it's a new thing, but remember all this old stuff. The Last of Us is basically saying, hey, here's the game that you played 5 years ago or 2 years ago or 1 year ago, however many they released, and these are points in which you'll remember playing through this section, and I'm hoping that that stops happening and it's more the overarching story that's similar, but the specific details and plot points and moment to moment scenes are more tailored, more custom, and made better in certain ways. That's what I'm hoping. But if they continue to do what they're doing in episode 1, I kind of would be asking like, what's the purpose of this show if you're just copying pretty much
Yeah.
copy pasting the game. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting.
To alleviate some of that, 2 is more of that, and then the rest of the show is not, as far as I've
Yeah.
seen. I haven't seen the entire show. I've only seen 4 episodes. But yes, they wanted essentially what you're saying. They wanted to Force Awakens the opening, and then subtly they lifted everything up, mixed all the ingredients around, and then laid it back on top.
Yeah.
How many eps is it? 10 eps?
9.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be 10, but they combined the first 2 episodes.
Which is wild because
Wait, do you mean as in they just did a 2-hour episode 1 or episode 1, 2 back and forth?
Well, I think in writing they combined them because they had 10, and then they were like, they wanted the first episode to end on a big climactic moment, but they didn't. They eventually wanted the first episode to end with a certain thing, so they were like, hey, let's just shorten down the second episode, combine it with the first, and then we can end on a good fun note and not have to dredge back in for 3 episodes retreading the same thing. So
Okay, so that means in about 2 months we'll have our video out discussing The Last of Us season 1 in full. Cool.
yeah, totally. I'm excited. It's yeah, I've been enjoying it. Thank you. Waiting for that. That is the last. Sorry, I'm literally getting messages about the show from work because they're still working. Now it's time to talk about games we have been playing. I'm gonna go first because it's my freaking show. Mech Warrior 5. I dove into this after we had all the BattleTech, Mech Warrior, Armored Core discussions in the Discord. Folks, if you haven't joined our Discord, you shouldn't. It's a nightmare. But there is a link in the video below and in the podcast app. This game, oh man. This would be a good college game, I think. Or if I had friends who played video games with me. Or if
It was better?
No, it's good. It's not that bad.
Are you having the same problem I had we talked about last week where it's like the game is fun, it's just I don't like moving and shooting as a mech because it's like weird tank controls, which is understandable, but I don't like that.
I want it to control like a human being, and it doesn't, which annoys me. Also, hello, David. I'm glad you're working. And also, he said our Discord is fine. So, stunning recommendation from a Save Data member. It's good. It has so much. It's so cool. Like, you are a mercenary group traveling around the galaxy, flying from solar system to solar system, buying mechs, repairing mechs, doing contracts, trying to find the people who attacked you. Like, all of this stuff is really great. I just do not have the time and patience to do that. The missions are just, they seem hard. I kept dying on, like, I was doing good on the missions. I was like, oh, I guess you just got to repair them every time. And then I was doing one mission and I like died within 5 minutes. And I'm like, what? Now, granted, you can like, all the systems are there, so I might not be playing right, but you can get co-op partners in there up to 4, I think, with their own mechs. I don't know how any of that system works, if they can bring their mechs or you have to own the mechs. But also, you can hire just pilots and have them control mechs and all that sort of stuff. So it's really neat and interesting, all these systems. So you like fly to a planet or a solar system, grab the contract, fly down the thing, perform it. You can collect extra stuff that's there, all that sort of stuff. But then, like, it just is hard. It's hard to control the mechs. The tutorial was good, but I just feel like these AR are so much better at it than I am. And half the time, I am going to shoot something and my legs are the wrong direction because forward on the stick moves you forward in whatever direction your legs are moving. But then you're like, oh, I want to turn that way or that way like a human. But then that just moves the legs, turning those directions. So then you end up with legs facing the wrong way. And you're like, oh, like, where am I going? Why can't I shoot this guy? Why am I walking this way? What is happening? And it's just like a nightmare. Also, the first, like, 5 or 6 missions before the game really opens up, you were just fighting like tanks and vehicles and helicopters and stuff, and that was pretty easy. And then they're like, hey, here's these 2 mercenary mech pilots that are fighting you, and they're just like 5,000 feet away, beaming you with lasers between buildings, and you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, all of the menus for like putting things on your mech, all that sort of stuff is like so complicated, and I don't understand anything. And you have to have specific weight and hand mounts and all this sort of stuff. And I just wanted like a button that is just like equip best, or like
Mhm.
have specific loadouts for things where it's like, hey, buy this loadout from the store, it'll cost you this amount of money and all that sort of stuff. So
Man,
it's
hearing you talk about it, it's like the game designer part of me is just like, this is a nightmare scenario because you have something that's difficult to control, and then you're like, but if you dumb it down too much, people are going to hate you for it because it has a strong fan base. The equipment screens, like you're talking about, it's difficult to accomplish that properly with good UI UX, so it's not confusing. But if you dumb it down too much, the fan base is going to hate you for it. Like, this is just a very difficult concept to implement, and I don't know what the solution is. As you're describing these problems, normally I'm like, oh, these freaking idiots, here's how to fix it.
yeah.
But like, a lot of this is like, I don't know, because you're going to ruin the core fan base if you do it the way I would prefer it. So
I was trying to think like if there's I can't think of what the game is, but there's plenty of games where it's like you have the surface level
Yeah.
stuff. Like I mean, almost like Destiny as an example. Like you can get guns, you can find good guns. No, I mean
Yeah.
it's not a perfect example, but like,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about
Yeah.
older Destiny, anyways. You get a gun, whatever, and then you got the people who are like, hey, I want to put this mod, this armor, this thing, and it makes this
Pokemon.
gun 10 times better because I'm wearing the specific things.
Yeah,
What'd you say?
Pokemon, perfect example.
Yeah, Pokemon.
You can just play Pokemon, or you can start to min max the moves. You can start handing out items. You can go do like daycare and mating and hatching and breeding and all that, or you could just play the game. And that's a hard balance to achieve. Sorry, Kyle, you were gonna say something.
No, I just the way that you were describing like the weight system reminded me so much of Death Stranding. And one of the things in Death Stranding is there's just an auto set button. You
Yeah.
click it and you can go in and move stuff around and switch stuff over, or you can just let the computer do it. And I tended to do that for most of the missions. I just can't imagine having a mechanic like that in a game where like you're like it makes weight a really important part of the actual gameplay, and not having a button that just automates it is kind of wild to me. But I've only
Yeah.
ever played MechWarrior 2 or 3, so I've been out of that series for a really long time. But
Yeah, I feel like it's a it's a it's it's a fun concept trying to be a simulator
Mhm.
where it should have a simulation mode and it should have like a fun fuck around mode.
Yeah.
And I can't like I think the best path for this game is to have the fun mode where you played enough and you're like, man, I kind of want the challenge of running the actual like battle mechs and stuff. And then you like
Yeah.
kind of get into it and all that sort of stuff. So like this game on paper is really interesting and cool. Like all the stuff I described about it, like is neat that all those I wasn't expecting this game. I was expecting a linear story that I have to go through and mission by mission and I'll get to the end, but it's not that. So I was pleasantly surprised by that, but in the end it's just like it just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toughie.
Next up, Power Washer Simulator. Talk about the perfect podcast game. This game literally has no music. So I put my own music on. It's very relaxing. You are a person who power washes things. You can upgrade your power wash. You can buy more expensive power washes. You take gigs. It is of the same ilk of like House Flipper and all the sort of gamified simulator games. Would you say it's not 100% simulator, but it's not 100% fun times? You still have to manage stuff. There's not like a hose attached to you all the time, and you have to watch your water pressure and use it on the correct materials and all that. I mean, you can, but you're not going to destroy something if you use the wrong thing. It's very relaxing. there's a huge variety in the things you do. Like I cleaned off the Mars rover, I cleaned off a car, I cleaned off old Mother Hubbard's boot, I cleaned off a house. I'm working on a fire station right now. Um, I made the mistake of accidentally putting 2 houses next to each other, and it hadn't loaded in the new ones yet, so I had to literally do 2 full-size houses back to back before it would like give me new missions, and that was annoying. And they just announced DLC where you get to power wash Lara
saw that.
Croft's Tomb Raider mansion, which I don't know why I went for that accent. Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, boom, bang, get the tomb.
Oh boy.
It's that North
Anyways,
Jersey accent coming
yeah.
through.
Hey, who's in that raid in that tomb? Bazungas. So it's fun. I enjoy it. It's got its quirks. Yeah, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna play it. It's nice, but it's not the story. I'm wondering if like the story's gonna get weirder because you get like text messages while you're cleaning stuff up, and like I cleaned one house and they're like, "Hey, don't worry about those weird symbols on the walls. They're apparently to communicate with angels." I'm like, "What?" And then like I went to old Mother Hubbard's house and cleaned her shoe, and I was getting texts from her like poopy poopy fart and all this stuff, and then she was like, "Sorry, my son took the phone." And then the mayor texted me, he's like, "Oh, my golf cart needs to be cleaned," and it was covered in mud. I'm like, "Where were you?" Like I want to
And blood.
uncover like a
Yeah.
murder mystery or something. I think
Yeah.
that'd be really fun. Like, "Oh, I drove my car off a bridge and someone died in it, and you just need to power wash the car and make it better." Like that was a
Okay, okay, Ted
joke.
Kennedy.
Thank you for picking up on it. Anyways, it's fun. It's free on Game Pass. So is MechWarrior 5. And yeah, go check it out. And then finally, I was dipping back into Medal of Honor Airborne, which is a EA Medal of Honor game from the 360 era. It's a competent shooter. If you play it, change your control scheme to Control Scheme 2 because it is the closest to modern controls, and it's not a nightmare. As you kill things with your weapons, you unlock medals for the weapons that add more stuff to them, more equipment, and like make them better. I'm just playing it for fun. I remember it has insane ragdoll. You may play it today and be like, "Oh, this ragdoll is probably because it's being emulated or whatever." Backwards compatibility. It's not. It had insane ragdoll when I first played it, and it still has insane ragdoll. Like a guy will be walking, you shoot him in the head, he'll fly. He'll go across the room.
Wow.
It is wonderful. It is one of the few games where you can actively see the AI thinking. There will be like a
Nice.
guy coming towards you. You'll go up to the cover. You'll see the AI be like, "Can't go to that cover now," and he'll just turn around and run back to the other cover. You can never kill with grenades. They always run away from them. But it's fun. You jump out of an airplane every single time, and when you die, you jump out of an airplane again. It's a super good time. So definitely check that out. Ian Gibson.
Hi.
I heard you're a little immortal.
That's right. I've been playing more of Modern Warfare 2 DMZ. So I've been playing it with Kyle and Will. We're getting pretty good at it, honestly. We had like 3 straight extracts the other day, and I think we killed player characters on every run. We had this really good moment when Will and I were playing without Zach. Fuck that guy. No kidding. He just couldn't join yet, so we got around it on stream. And we went to a stronghold, and we went to this room, and we started like the safe uncrack activity, and they're basically like, "Hunker down, guard the safe, enemies are coming," and we're like, okay, there's just 2 of us, and the AI in DMZ is actually kind of hard. It's probably at on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of like AI difficulty, like if you're picking that in the game, it's probably like a 7 or an 8, right? Like they're definitely harder than normal, than like the straight normal difficulty.
I would say the regular guys on the map are like the normal Call of Duty difficulty, and then
Yeah.
the guys who are armored up are probably hardened. Like
Yeah.
no one's quite veteran, but yeah, I would say they're pretty. Like if you're out in the open just shooting at them, you'll go down.
Yeah, you'll start taking shots. So anyway, so we huddle up in this room, and there's like these waves of AI just start coming, and we get through probably 10 or 15 of these guys, and then we start hearing people on the local voice comms, and then we start killing people in the doorway, and we're like, that's a player character because he didn't go down. He is crawling around, and we like wiped this enemy squad. And the way it was we weren't sure if they were gone or not, and there was still somebody on voice comms, and we weren't sure if it was somebody who was just dead and hanging out near us, so we had to like wait and sneak away. But like we were cruising. So that I think Modern Warfare, Call of Duty deciding to make Warzone free to play, and then also on top of that, Warzone 2.0 and DMZ free to play, has been the smartest move they've made in like a decade. Because I bought Modern Warfare 2. I was not planning to buy that game at all, but the fact that I started playing DMZ and I was like, I really enjoyed this game and I'm having fun with it, but I want to play some more of this game, but not necessarily this mode because I don't like playing DMZ solo. I was like, I want to play multiplayer. So I'm going to put my money down and buy the full game so I can play the other multiplayer modes. And that's fantastic. Like, it is just one of the best free demos for a game ever because it really sells the game. Kyle, you usually play some Call of Duty. You played any of the new Modern Warfare 2 stuff?
Yeah, I've done a bunch of the DMZ stuff. I never do solo, but I do just do random queues. And that's always pretty fun. But the stuff I've played with friends has been fun too. I like the sort of Tarkov, obviously very inspired type of gameplay. Extracting is fun. Going around, shooting the AI, and then simultaneously being able to have interactions between real world players is always interesting. But the multiplayer itself is fun. I haven't bought the game, so I know I am definitely limited on like certain things that I can do. But it's fun. I mean, I think I played with my one friend. We did duos a couple days ago, and we got like third, and that was pretty on par for my Warzone experience, where we got close, but we never actually won. But it's fun. I mean, it runs way better on my PC than
Yes.
original Warzone ever did. So I don't know what they must have taken like a lot of criticism and actually were like, okay, we're gonna make this a functional video game for the first time in our lives. So I like that. It's fun to play with friends and it's just fun all around. But I don't necessarily want to support Activision monetarily, so I will just do the free to play stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. The other game I've been playing is Immortality, so I picked this up, played about an hour of it. This is something I've been meaning to play because it's a potential GOTY in my mind in terms of like, hey, I should play this because it could potentially be on my top list at the end of the year. It's on Game Pass, and I could play it on my Xbox while I was sitting in bed with COVID. Actually, so it turns out Immortality, I didn't realize this, it did not come out on the Xbox One. And so when I went to download it, I couldn't download it. So I just did Cloud Play. And it was like perfect. So I played this using Xbox Cloud off my Xbox One over Wi-Fi, and it was fine. Like maybe once every 5 minutes I would notice an issue, and because of the nature of the game, like the control latency was just not recognizable because you're just pressing buttons to watch a clip and stuff. Game seems kind of cool. I'm not super into it because I don't really. I feel a bit overwhelmed with the idea of, oh no, I'm gonna have to scrub these clips and look for all the click points throughout the clips. I'm okay with that mechanic. I don't like the idea of that becoming a treasure hunt mechanic where I feel like I'm not going to complete the game unless I fully go through that treasure hunt. But if they just, I'm not saying they had to, but if the game was a way where it's like, hey, you've seen everything in this clip, or like, hey, there's something to click around this timestamp, then I would feel a lot better about it. But I was dreading so much getting to the point where you have to treasure hunt clicking in these clips that I decided I played it for an hour. I think I'm okay. The acting in it is fantastic. Like the movies in it itself are very good, and I was enjoying that. But I don't think I like the search and click mechanic enough. I don't know. Will, you played Immortality?
Yeah, I played it. I found the best way to do it is to just be like, watch the clip, pick one thing to go back to and click on, see if it's a thing that sends you somewhere else, go there. Because you get to the point where the weird stuff happens, and that just happens regardless. Like there's a huge in-game queue for it. You know what's happening visually. You know what's happening. You can pretty much get it every single time. So like you get to that point where it's not like I think it telling you can click on things to bring you to other things is the worst part of that game. Like it should have like splice points or like something that gets messed up that you know when to switch over to a different thing. Like the beginning of the game should be more linear, so when you get to that secondary part where it's more obvious to you, um you can get to that faster, because that part of the game, when I got to it, I was about to drop it, and then I got to that part, and Karen and I were like, "Whoa, like we need to keep playing this."
So
So
that's the thing is I knew there was something like that coming. I did not get to that part, so I think I may literally just look up a walkthrough to be like, all right, speed run me to that part, and I'll see if my interest carries me beyond it.
yeah, I have not finished the game. We played it one weekend for a couple hours, and then just life gets away from you, and it's gone. I've
You have a
deleted it off
life?
my. Oh my god, do I? Um, he's 12 now. But yeah, I just I never finished it, but I did enjoy my time with it. I think if it was more tight, if it was a tighter game, I think it would have been better. I honestly think if it was more linear, it would have been up there higher on my list for sure. Kyle,
It's my name.
what'd you
Yeah.
play?
So Neon White is awesome. I know Ian, you talked about this game back when it first released, and you played it a little bit.
Yep.
I I finally picked it up, and obviously we were doing our game of the year list, and I really wanted to get at least a couple hours into it before I started making my final decisions. And as a fan of games like Mirror's Edge and even Mirror's Edge Catalyst to a certain extent, the time trial ness of the game itself is sort of the addicting thing for me. Like I will go back and redo levels just to beat my friends, which I'm not really competitive in that way normally, but something about that game just getting the perfect run, or just a run that's higher than anyone else on the leaderboard, is really addicting. It's so fluid and fun and fast and easy. Especially if you mess up, you just hit F and it just resets instantly, and then you just go again. And getting into that flow, I think is really really addicting. And the loop itself of that gameplay and looking for that perfect run is fantastic. So I'm having a really good time with it. I actually kind of like the weird weeby anime stuff because it's so tongue in cheek at points, and it's very much aware of how cringe it is sometimes. And
Hmm.
it's there's no way that someone would have written a story like that in a game like Neon White and not been very hyper aware of exactly what they were doing. So I like it for that. Um, I don't care that much about the story. It's more about just the running gameplay for me. But it's fun. It's a nice atmosphere to be around, and I like going back and getting all the little presents in every level, and then unlocking the side quests for all the different characters. Like that's just been really fun. So having a really good time with that. And then the other game that I'm playing is Cult of the Lamb, which again is a big end of the year or game of the year list contender. I think I'm about 7 or 8 hours into that one, and it is kind of addicting in ways that I was not expecting it to be. So I saw a trailer for it, I think a month or two before it launched, and I was like, oh, this looks cute, but I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this. And then probably 20 to 30 minutes into playing it, I was like, I got that feeling of just like, I think I'm gonna like 100% this, or like do
Hmm.
like spend a decent amount of time in this game. And it's fun. I mean, a lot of the mechanics as far as the sort of farming simulator, the actual cult member management, the unlocking stuff. I think that all of that progresses at a really satisfying rate. Like it's pretty much every 15 to 30 minutes, some new mechanic is introduced or some new thing is unlocked, and it some of them are a little bit smaller as far as their impact for the gameplay, but
Hmm.
when you get to some of the bigger stages and progress further and further, and the combat deepens on top of everything, I think it's just really satisfying to play. And then eh, I also think that one of the things in games like that sometimes worry me, is like it can feel like it's just endless, where it's like you can progress and progress, and it's like you just there's no end game. I like the fact that in Cult of the Lamb, it's very clearly like you need to defeat these bosses, and then there's another door and stuff like that. Like it's just very very clearly signals where the game is going to end, and I think having that goal sort of sitting in front of you the entire time is a nice motivation to keep going. So I'm having a good time with it. I think both of you played it. I know Ian did. Will, did you play it? No.
I have not. I thought about picking it up because they just put out that trailer where it's got like the huge quality of life update where it,
Oh,
like
okay.
auto cooks food, you can do mass blessings or something.
Mm.
So I was like, oh, maybe I'll pick it up. The way you were just talking about the like I'm gonna 100% that game is how I felt about Tinykin,
Mm.
which like as soon as I was like 2 levels into that, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do
Yeah.
everything in this game. Other than the time trials they just added, which I have not done. But yeah, I need to play it, so I'm glad you're liking it because I might pick it up. It's not on Game Pass or anything, right? I'll have to buy it.
I
with
don't
money.
think so.
I bought it on Steam, so
It's only like what, 20, 25 bucks? It's
Yeah.
worth
I
it.
think I got it for like 17. They did like a sale for a weekend or something, but yeah, it's somewhere around there.
I was considering, well, because I was thinking about getting Fire Emblem Engage today. Engage, right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. But then honestly, I'm going through everything on the streams channel and adding thumbnails and changing the titles and all that sort of stuff. And I was looking through Kyle Emblem and I was like, oh, maybe I should go play Fire Emblem, whatever shitty one you play. No, I'm kidding. Whatever
Wow. Thank you.
GameCube
You mean the
one you
best
played.
ones. Fuck you. Wow.
I'm just kidding. I really am. I
Wow.
was like, oh, maybe like a Path of Radiance, right?
There you go. Yeah. Path of Radiance and then Radiant Dawn.
Radiant Dawn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Who cares? So I was
Okay.
like, oh, maybe I'll play Path of Radiance. But I was like, I think I might do the Steam Deck thing and finally have GameCube on there. I'll rip the clear copy I own that is like $5,000 for some stupid reason.
I have the book, like the strategy guide, and that strategy guide is like $75. I was like, everything about those two games is insanely expensive.
I wanted to pick up some strategy guides. I ended up picking strategy guides for Fallout 3 and New Vegas because I was like looking for other stuff and they were there and cheap. But I was like, oh, let me get a strategy guide for like Pokemon White when we were playing through it, I think, or it was some other Pokemon. And it was like $300. I was like, okay, PDF on the Kindle then because screw
I actually
you.
I sold Path of Radiance my senior year of college for like $100 because I needed some cash. Because I was going to Russia and I needed extra spending money, so I was like, I'll sell my video games, and I wish I'd held on to it because it's worth so much more now. Like it's crazy. But
Yeah. So if I don't do the Steam Deck stuff or buy it not buy it, or pull out my sealed copy worth billions of dollars, there's I've been on a waiting list for the GameCube SD loader for a while, where you take the disc drive out and you put a SD card loader into the GameCube, and I don't know. Nintendo, I would like to pay you to play Path of Radiance or Radiant Dawn.
if they did a remaster of those two games, oh my gosh, it makes
David,
so
I'll
much
buy it
money.
off you. I'll give you such a good massage. No, I would legitimately buy it off you if you do actually have 2 copies. Anyways, moving on, folks. It's time for the news, which means I get to play my creepy new news theme. It's time for the news. God, I love it. It's so good.
Is that you? That's the first time I've heard that. Is that
That was me. That was me.
Wow.
I
Okay.
bought that thing and I said, what if someone was whispering during this? And then after I ejaculated, then I whispered. Sorry.
I feel like every week you should do a different version of that.
That is so
It's
much
like-
more effort than I'm willing to put into
No, we just do
anything.
it. We do it live.
Or yeah.
Oh,
just do it
that's
live, yeah.
true. No.
Do it
Um,
live.
I could actually do that. Anyways, it's time for the news, folks. I picked a good news article here that chat is just thirsty to talk about. The chat hounds out there are just sitting at their doggy bowls going, where's my water? Because, folks, 10 bajillion people got axed from the Microsoft corporation. 10,000 people were laid off from big old Bill Gates' butthole. They were gone. They were let go. Right, Ian? You're just staring at me.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I believe just to set that number in context, though, that is the
All of
estimates I was
Microsoft.
seeing is 5% of their workforce.
Yeah, which is not that many. Or not that big of a percent. But it's
Yeah,
10,000 people is so many people.
Yes, yeah. Big number of people, decent
Small,
number
yeah.
percentage. Yeah.
So on the tail end of that, there were a bunch of people let go from 343, makers of Halo Infinite. One of the greatest. No, absolutely not. And so some of those people have spoken out with some very interesting things to say, including that it was mostly management that was kind of hard on them. There's a good line in here that I enjoyed. There was also people who were like Bethesda Game Studios, Gears of War, the Coalition, and Halo Makers 343. The layoffs, sorry, I'm trying to see who said this. Patrick Wren, who was the former senior multiplayer designer on Halo Infinite and now works at Respawn, said the layoffs at 343 shouldn't have happened and Halo Infinite should be in a better state. The reason for both these things is incompetent leadership up top during Halo Infinite development, causing massive stress on those working hard to make Halo the best it can be. The people I worked with every day were passionate about Halo and want to make something great for the fans. They helped push for a better Halo and got laid off for it. Some other people left as well at the end of last year. And then it also came out that Joseph Staten was changed from the Halo 343 team to another internal team at Microsoft. I mean, get out while the stuff is happening. And then, you know what? I was going to bring up an article, and then some person here put it here, right below.
You're welcome.
Here, like a mind reader. Written from, what is this website? GameSpot.com.
Stop.
GameStop.com. Sorry. Not funny.
At this point,
Anyway.
you would have thought one of those two stupid companies would have blinked and changed their name by now, right? Dear Lord.
Listen. Anyways, a new report has come out claimed that the Halo developer 343 Industries is being taken off of active development of the franchise, and that new games in the series will be created by third-party studios. This is all according to the bathrobe Spartan himself, the Halo leaker.
Wait, I'm sorry. Is that his name?
Yes.
Bathroom Spartan.
Which
Was
is
he like a
incredible.
janitor at?
Was it bathrobe or bathroom?
Bathrobe.
Oh, robe. I think you
God.
said bathroom.
Bathroom would be awesome too.
They're both
I'm a bathroom
bad.
Spartan for sure.
God.
Anyways, they apparently have a pretty good track record for Halo Inside Information, and it was translated by Metro. I almost was like, let me read this tweet, not in English.
You want my hot take on this?
Yeah, give me your hot take on this.
Look, layoffs are bad. Layoffs suck. But at the same time, 343 Industries needed to be put out of its misery.
Yes.
They were taking forever to develop Halo Infinite, and they couldn't meet deadlines to save their ass. And that's why it kept getting delayed to a point where it was embarrassing to Microsoft and the launch of their next-gen console that Halo Infinite could not hit any dates. And then when the game did launch and actually surprisingly hit very well, like remember when that multiplayer dropped before the campaign and everybody was playing that multiplayer. That took
Yeah.
off. They could not capitalize on that success to save their life. Like I don't want to say all they had to do, but they had the fan base, they had the clamor, they just had to develop a competent multiplayer roadmap and deliver on that. And they couldn't do that. And then when it came to the single player, which had some good ideas in it, and you could understand why it was delayed because it wasn't quite finished, all they had to do was build on that and deliver something as simple as split screen local. And they couldn't even do that. Remember, that was eventually canceled out of the game.
And
it
was in
working.
the game. Like,
It was in the game.
I played it for 5 minutes
Yes.
before I erased my save.
Yeah.
Like-
And the crazy thing is, it's not like all of this happened within the span of like a month or half a year. Like 343 has been on fire for several years in a row now. If you consider the tumultuous development of Halo Infinite, all the delays, then the release, then the past, it's been a year, right? It's been a little more than a year since Halo Infinite came out, and how they have just failed and failed and failed to deliver. And what they do deliver is typically chastised and hated by the community because it's misbalanced or misimplemented or has bad UX, etc. Like, I'm sorry people got laid off. I'm sorry they lost their jobs. But 343 Industries was in a terrible place, and nothing was getting better, even when things would go their way, like the relatively positive launch of Halo Infinite multiplayer. This big change needed to happen, and quite frankly, I'm glad that it did. And I'm glad that 343, based on this rumor, is not going to be doing Halo games anymore. I think that, number one, takes the poison out of the pot by not letting 343 necessarily guide that Halo process anymore. And number two, now that I think about it, think about some of the other Microsoft studios or outside studios that could take a shot at Halo.
Yeah,
That's kind of exciting.
I was gonna bring up the point, like, not doesn't apply to everyone, but it's like when you like reading books or watching movies, you're not if you're like, hey, let me watch every single Mission Impossible movie back to back. You're not sitting there watching them all in order unless you're crazy. You're spanning it out over a couple weeks. You got TV shows in between there. You got
Yep.
YouTube, all that sort of stuff. Well, game companies, like, to use Bethesda as an example, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, then something else, Starfield, blah blah blah. Like, people are creative enough, and then they're like, hey, let me make something else for a little bit, and then come back to the thing I like to make. So making an entire company built around just making Halo stuff, or making Gears stuff, is like, can tire those people out, where you don't get great products because the people get burned out, move on to other projects, and the people who came up with the killer ideas for the first game aren't around for the second game because they want to work on something different for a little bit. So I feel like it's the same thing with this, like, setting these up just hurts them. Go ahead, Kyle.
I would just to like look back at Halo's history, and when Bungie had Halo, they weren't just doing the same game over and over and over. They were iterating a lot, but then they were experimenting a lot. I mean, the amount of people who really did not or were not excited for ODST when it was announced, where it's like, wait, you're not playing as a Spartan? Why would I play this game? And then it comes out, it's this really unique sort of thing that takes place within the same world, but it's done differently. It's got different atmosphere, and it's a really unique experience. 343 doesn't have anything like that. It's like they are just there to churn the same, semi-yearly or three years, whatever their timeline was, the same sort of experience over and over and over, with like a moderately successful return on investment that could be counted on, by Microsoft every few years. And there just didn't seem to be any passion. There's this really great, is it Crobcat on YouTube, where he does a comparison between the behind the scenes footage that Bungie released for the making of the first 3 Halo games versus the behind the scenes footage that 343 released when they were making, I think, Halo 4 and 5. And it's just such a stark difference between the passion that the developers have for their own thing, and then the passions that these developers were sort of like thrust upon, this project was thrust upon them, and they had to come and try and make it their own. And it just never, I mean, I think Halo 4 is their best Halo game, which is still, probably fourth down on
Yeah.
the mainline Halo games, like where it should be. And they just got worse with every release. And I didn't even finish Infinite, which I've played almost every mainline Halo game, and I can't say that about any of them. Like, I've finished all of them except for Infinite.
I loved Infinite because, well, after I lost my save, I started the game over and got the tank gun and used that for the entire game, and it was absolutely incredible and one of the most fun times. Like, I never finished Halo 5. I hated Halo 5. 4, I didn't mind.
I hate played that game. Like, it was not fun to play.
I just didn't want to keep playing it. But yeah, it's exact point. Like, honestly, like Ian's saying, 343 just being the arbiters of Halo, being like the watchovers, managers, supervisors, like, that sounds a lot better, where they're just like, hey, let's have someone make this game. We'll check it every so often. We'll make sure you're not, like, ruining the Halo universe or whatever. Pitch us your interesting ideas. We'll let you make it, and we'll come in and clean it up afterwards. Like, that is nice. I think that's the way to go about it, because people have other ideas that aren't just Halo, and I feel like a lot of those developers are working on Halo, being like, man, what if I could work on like a fantasy setting or something? And not saying everyone's like that. Obviously, there's people who love doing what they do, and they still love doing what they do. But yeah, hopefully this is good news for them. I mean, we're not happy 10,000 people lost their jobs, obviously, but I'm happy that things could get better for the games we're getting out of that studio. But the best to those 10,000 people, and hope they get jobs back, because that sucks and layoffs are not good. Anyways, moving on from the sad news to the less sad news. There's almost a cat butt on screen. It's so close. Oh, thank God.
I don't think you'll see it.
I thought we were going to be showing holes.
Camera's too high.
Oh, thank God. I'm too high. No, I'm not. Steam, Ian, go. Fuck off. Go do your news.
Hi. Yeah, I just want to talk. There's been an announcement that there is a what is called a Steam World Telegraph, which is their version of a special broadcast, a Nintendo Direct or whatever. It's coming up on January 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Central European Time. That is, quote, come see what's coming up next for Steam World. I'm very excited for this. This studio has made some fantastic games before, but they also hop around genres a lot. Chill the fuck out, cat. So this could literally be anything, any type of game genre with SteamWorld layered on top. What do you guys, what are your hopes and dreams and wishes here? What have they done before? They've done Dig, which was kind of like basically a 2D platformer. They've done Heist, which was a turn-based strategy game. They've done Quest, which was a card-based RPG.
No, that was Quest.
Yeah, I think that was Quest. Didn't they? They did a crossover with Shovel Knight, I believe. Like they've done. They did the Gunk recently, which was not SteamWorld, but that was the same studio. So
okay.
maybe it's time to go 3D. I don't know. What do you think, Will?
I've never played a SteamWorld game. I have played the Gunk, which I have said previously I think was the developer's way of being like our tech demo of like, hey, we can make a 3D game. Like, let's put this like 4 to 6 hour fun game together. It's got a bare bones story. It's got a sucky mechanic, literally. Let's just put this together, see if it works. Let's see if we can make a 3D game, and they can. It was a great game. It was a great game. It played great. It felt good. It wasn't a game of the year or anything. It was just it felt like a little tech demo thing they put together. Karen absolutely loved SteamWorld Heist. She blew through it super fast. This was a couple years ago. So I think more content from them is great. I like that they sort of keep everything together, change genres, all this sort of stuff. I need to play SteamWorld Dig and Dig 2. I heard they're fantastic games.
Yeah.
I should do that. Are they on the Switch? Are they
Yes.
outside Nintendo?
I don't know about outside Nintendo, but Dig 2 is on the Switch. It's fantastic. That's how I played
Maybe
it.
I'll look it up. I'll see if.
And they're short. They're like 8 to 10 hours at the most. They're
I
great.
just don't want to play on the Switch. I hate my.
It's
everything looks
perfect. It's
terrible on
perfect.
there.
No, but this art style is
That's
indie.
true.
It's not.
I was
gonna
looking
stress.
at screenshots of Fire Emblem and I was like, this looks awful. Put it on my Steam Deck. Anyways, I'm excited for this. When was it again? Sorry to bring that up.
I believe it's next Wednesday or next Thursday.
Because Thursday is the Xbox one, so maybe it's Wednesday.
Actually, it's Monday. 23rd, Monday.
Oh, fuck you. Kyle, I didn't know if there was anything you wanted to talk about here. I forgot you hadn't been on the show since. Were you on the show since the relaunch? I don't know. Anyways, we picked.
Not since I think it was on
out.
99 or 98 or
That's
something.
right.
But yeah.
You don't have to talk about anything here. We can go straight to Ian's little game if we want to do that.
Yeah, let's do it. Well,
Yeah,
we're
let's do a
already
game.
7 minutes past the hour.
Oh
so
my God, I'm so sorry, you guys.
let's go for it.
Let's do the game. Okay,
Do the
so
game. Show it to me.
y'all familiar with Matt Piscatella?
I know the name.
He is executive director and video game industry analyst at the NPD Group. The NPD, I believe, stands for National Publishers Digest. They basically are the ones who do all those sales numbers. I'm stealing this from the Easy Allies podcast. They've been doing this for a while now. But basically, MPD numbers came out for December as well as the entirety of 2022. So let's talk about some of these best-selling games. We're not gonna talk about December. We're just gonna talk about the entire year. So we've got 10 games that are on the 2022 US top 20 video games in dollar sales. Key thing: Xbox and Switch digital sales are not included. So slight caveat there. This isn't like an actual like money on the line. I'm not counting points here, but what do you guys think is on the list of top 10 for 2022?
Sorry, one more thing. What's not included? I missed that part.
Xbox and Switch digital sales not included.
Like, so sales numbers aren't included, right?
No, as in this is the top 10 dollar sales, as in which games made the most money on sales, not including Xbox and Switch digital sales.
Gotcha.
Call of Duty, probably, right?
Sorry, Call of Duty number one with a bullet. Actually, it doesn't have a number on here, but Call of Duty number one with a bullet. Number two, honestly, is surprising. Yeah.
Madden.
No, Madden is number three.
Madden.
Oh,
Madden's number three.
And it's
number
not
two.
It's not FIFA, right? It's not. Is it a sports game?
FIFA is 7.
Oh,
It is not a sports game, but it was a giant hit earlier this year.
Elden Ring.
Vampire Survivors.
It was Elden Ring. Elden Ring number
Elden
2.
Ring,
Dude,
okay.
yeah,
That's
okay.
huge. That's huge.
That's
game of the
massive.
year.
Oh my gosh.
I'll skip around a little bit. Number 4, God of War Ragnarok. Number 5, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Number 6, honestly, this feels a bit low. Pokemon Scarlet Violet.
Pokemon.
FIFA was number 7. Number 8, Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Wow.
Number 9, Horizon 2 Forbidden West. And number 10, MLB The Show 22. Guess what number 11 was?
Ooh, let me guess. Tinykin.
I'll give you a hint. It is always on this list. And it is a Nintendo game.
Rabbids? Splatoon?
No.
Something?
Kirby.
I don't know.
It is something that has been on this list for literally like 5 or 6 years in a row.
Oh,
Mario
Kart.
Kart. Yeah.
Mario Kart 8.
Wow.
Kart 8 to 11.
Constantly.
We both arrived at the exact same conclusion.
How are
Yeah.
new people still buying Mario
It's because
Kart?
they keep releasing the DLC tracks or whatever.
No,
it is,
it's
so.
because people are buying Switches. So you buy a Switch, it's like
God.
you're right.
get Mario Kart.
ridiculous.
There aren't digital sales. That's why Pokemon's so low.
Speaking of, I actually read a thing that Nintendo's going to make more Switches in 2023 than they did in 2022, which is wild to me.
Yeah, that Switch Pro and that Switch 2, it ain't coming anytime soon, folks.
I think
because
it was-
y'all still buying.
I don't know if you saw the tweet from Gene Park, who was saying his interview with someone. It might have been Doug Bowser, said Nintendo wants the Switch to be a long console generation. And
Yeah.
he's like 2
wonder
years later
why.
since that interview, they are proving it. It is
Yeah.
it is in for the long haul. Like, people, it is still the top of the sales. So make it not the top of the sales, and maybe we'll get a new Switch.
But honestly, it has put them in a really good spot to be off the regular console cycle. They are basically straddling the console cycle, and that means when they come out, they do not have to necessarily compete with an Xbox or a PlayStation. Now that the hardware is drastically different, it's not a direct hardware comparison, and they're not competing for bucks. It's not like when PS5 and Xbox Series X came out and it was like, which one are you spending your money on? So I think this does put them in a good spot. It just does kind of suck that we're stuck with that hardware for another couple years.
Do you guys see the next generation of Nintendo console? Do you see it as another Switch, or do you see it as a desktop or set-top box?
No, it's another Switch. I think I think number 1, that's what I would prefer, and number 2, I think that makes sense for them given the success of the Switch, and number 3, I'm just thinking about it like from a company perspective. Imagine how much they had to straddle and deal with essentially having 2 different pieces of hardware. Between the 3DS and the Wii U and the 3DS and the Wii, etc. It's like, okay, is this a handhold or is this a console? Is this game going here? Is it going here? Them simplifying that into one Goliath of a platform has had to have simplified their business in a lot of ways. And I would hate to bifurcate that again.
Do you think they ever come out with a so 2 questions here. Do you think they ever come out with a Switch, a permanently docked Switch, plug into a TV, leave it there like an Xbox?
I don't think
console?
so. Really?
Okay, and my second
What
question
they
is,
they did the opposite. The Switch Lite is the opposite. It is you cannot
That's
hook this
true.
up to a TV. Period.
do you think Nintendo will ever make another just console with no handheld version?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I don't think that they would do that on Switch though, because the whole point of the Switch is portability.
No, I agree with that.
If it's not, if like they did the Switch Lite, which is the whole point, is that it's portable, which was the point of the original Switch. So I get it from that angle. I don't think that they would ever lock it down. And I don't know. I think the next iteration of the Switch, or the Switch 2, whatever it is, like what's the killer app of that? Are they going to add cameras to do some AR stuff? Or are they going to, like what more can they do that would get people interested other than more powerful, better graphics, higher resolution?
Do you think it's Switch 2 TOO?
Switch U.
Full backwards compatibility would be really nice.
Oh, God.
Like
Yeah.
physical backwards compatibility. That would be really good.
Wild. Yeah. I could see
They don't care.
Nintendo doing like a like premier like box, like fully backwards compatible box like that.
Yeah.
Either hardware wise, or you can get every game on here.
Yeah. It's definitely, I don't think it's going to be VR. Nintendo.
No, not VR, but AR.
just-
I think they could do AR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've done AR before. So yeah, add cameras to it and a bunch of camera functionality.
Super
'Cause-
Nintendo Switch is a good title, David.
Yeah. They do like their
New
camera
Nintendo
bullshit.
Switch.
The new Nintendo Switch.
I hate that stupid 3DSs. I love my 3DS still though. Oh, I would take a
It's-
clamshell Switch.
Ooh, yes, I would too.
The Switch Flip.
E-
Oh man.
I wouldn't take it if it was a
I-
folding screen though, because folding screens don't look good after like 10 folds. No, but like a lot of folds.
I was just
like those
thinking,
phone
I don't
screens
want it to be dual screen, but what if it was? What if it's kind of like the PSP Go where it folds out?
A screen on the front and a screen on the back.
Oh God.
Or there's
That's-
just a cover like a Surface and it flips back.
Yeah.
To, like, prop it up,
but
better
honestly,
kickstand.
we're just talking about how the 3DS is a better console than the Switch because it's a better portable console than the Switch because you don't have to put it in a case. You just close it and you're done. Like
Yeah,
if you
'cause
could do
it's
that with the Switch, I would
fantastic.
love it. You know?
That's why the SP was the best too.
Oh,
That
I love my
analog should make a. I love my Pocket to death, but they should make a SP Pocket. And if I travel, I
Yeah.
don't take my Pocket. I take my SP.
And they should make it cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah, and they should make love to me. Continuing.
On that
You know what I
note,
saw today? Not to belabor this podcast any longer.
Whoa.
What?
Keep it PG-13.
Oh man, first of all, I was trying to put the new stream channel local chat playlist onto our main channel, like on the channel thing, not showing up in the channel search. But when you search local chat, just playlist of boobies. And I was like,
Nice.
I almost took a screenshot to send
Nice.
you guys. Unusually large, not large, unusually long nipples. I will say. I'll see if I can pull the image up for you guys. It could be really into it. Anyways, Ian wants to end the show so I can send that. But I did see Retro Games came out with a wireless GameCube controller, but in the shape form of the Switch
Joy-Cons.
Pro.
Oh,
No, Switch Pro. Not the Joy-Con one. I have seen that. But it
That's
looks like a
pretty
Switch Pro controller, but it has the GameCube layout on it, which
Oh, I
sent me down
see.
a rabbit hole of they also do it for they made a Dreamcast one, they made an
Retro
N64
Fighters.
one. Retro Fighters, that's what it
Yeah.
is. So I don't know how it is. It just popped up because they were like finalizing shipping and people were retweeting that. But I watched a review of the N64 one and they said the sticks are way more sensitive, so you can actually aim so much better, even in like GoldenEye and stuff. But the C buttons were a little like still awkward to mess around with and all that. But I thought about getting one because I think that'd be fun. I'd probably just get a wired one because the wireless one, the guy said, was kind of annoying. So who knows? I think that's the show. Is that the show, guys?
I think it is.
I think it
Yep.
is. I'm gonna hit this outro button. Folks, thanks for tuning in. We are Subpixel. You can find us subpixelfilms.com. They'll bring you straight to our link tree where you can see all of our cool stuff. If you didn't know, we're moving all of our streams over to the Subpixel Streams channel, including this very show. So subscribe over there if you want to get this show video form. If not, head on over to anchor.fm/localchat and you can pick whichever podcast app you like so you can listen to this podcast. We will be back, I believe, tomorrow or Sunday at some point this weekend with some Warzone, possibly. Whatever we want to do, we'll figure that out. So take a look out for that. We're updating stuff on the back end here, so look out for some announcements in the announcements channel. It's going to be a good time. Kyle and Ian, thank you so much for being here. I love both of you, and you're brilliant people, and I hope you have a wonderful Friday night. David, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.